Hello and welcome to the Epic Marketing Show. Today we're going to be looking at how you keep the customers you've got, how you get them to kind of be spending a little bit more money with them and increase their customer lifetime value, and then decrease their churn rate, so stop them from kind of disappearing into the void. We're going to be looking at how you can do that. This is platform agnostic. Doesn't matter whether or not you're using Infusionsoft. This is for any platform that you might be using. So make sure you've got yourself a drink. I have a lovely tea, and because my grandmother, shout out to Felicia, teased me about the tea, and she was like, she's subscribed on YouTube, by the way. Yeah, grandma's full on proper techno stuff. Although Skype, not so hot Felicia on Skype. Right, okay, so she teased me about the tea, and she said, how do we know you're drinking tea? Because we can never actually see any of the tea. And so today I have it in a lovely clear glass. So, and I also made it sparkly. So there we go, Felicia, there's my tea. So make sure you've got yourself a lovely drink. This tea today is actually called honeybush tea. It's from South Africa. There's a family theme in today's video. It's from South Africa, where I'm from. It actually grows in the parts of the Cederberg Mountains and parts of the mountains behind where I am from. And effectively, it's one of the rarest teas in the world. So I'm really quite excited to be drinking it. And I put some sparkly stuff in it as well to make it super exciting. So get yourself a drink, and then let's get into this topic for today. All right, let's get started. Okay, so how do you go about getting and keeping those customers? So first and foremost, everything that you do to get a customer in the first place, particularly if you're creating loads and loads of content and all that kind of stuff, all those strategies also apply to keeping that customer and keeping them spending money with you. So it's not really all that different from getting them in the first place. But I see the big problem I see in businesses is that effectively they spend a lot of time in the front area, where they kind of go and, you know, spend a huge amount of time putting ads together, spend a huge time creating good content, and then spend a lot of focus on the sales process. And once that kind of person is converted and they're a customer, everyone kind of runs away to the beginning of the process again and forgets that most of the profits from any business are going to be in customer retention. So keeping that customer and keeping them consuming. You've already spent the time and the effort creating a relationship. Now you just need to continue that process. You just need to continue fostering the relationship, and they will buy time and time and time again from you. So how do you go about doing that in a systematic way? And how do you go about doing it so that you keep those people possibly for life? Okay, so once you've got the customer in the first place, now it's time to look at the experience that you're offering them. If you are following the lifecycle marketing model, effectively what you'll be looking at is the wow experience now. So this is the point at which you deliver what you promised you were going to do, and then you go above and beyond to kind of like really give them that awesome customer experience. Not forgetting that by 2020, customer experience is going to be the #1 decider for whether or not your consumers do business with you over your competitors. And that is going to be over price and over quality. So customer experience is really the thing that you need to be focusing on. So you've got that customer, now it's time to really nail in that experience with them. And the easiest way to do this is with some kind of onboarding campaign or onboarding process. So it's very important to kind of understand what we call the moments of truth, and what Google coined as sort of the 0 moment of truth. Then you've got the first moment of truth, and then you've got the second moment of truth. So the 0 moment of truth that a consumer goes through is when they first come into contact with you, and they've made the decision to buy. They may not actually be in contact with you already. They may have made that decision to buy outside of being in contact with you. And then the first moment of truth is the point at which they actually, you know, might physically go into a store and pick up the thing, or make that purchase online. So that is the first moment of truth. And then you have the second moment of truth, and that's what we're looking at here. The second moment of truth is experiencing and consuming that product. So since we've got a bit of a kind of family, my grandmother in the tea, the mountains in South Africa, I'm actually going to use the example of my uncle's business. So my uncle is Jason McDonald, and he runs a business called Wildfire Tattoos and Piercings. And effectively, I'm just going to use that as an example as we run through all of this. So let's say somebody comes into a piercing studio and they want to get their ear pierced. As you can see, I've got quite a few piercings. I'm very intact. I know the experience that you go through. They've come in and they're about to get something pierced, or they have had something pierced. So that effectively has started the second moment of truth. But in order to keep that customer and turn them into a loyal customer that comes back time and time again for new jewelry, for possibly a tattoo, so that would be a cross-sell, or effectively more piercings, because it is a little bit addictive, what we want to be doing is we want to create some form of onboarding campaign. And the onboarding campaign may be as simple as, generally when someone has a piercing at a proper piercing studio, you're given a little bit of aftercare instruction and that kind of stuff. At this point in time, you can collect that customer's email address and then provide all of that onboarding information, all the information that they need to keep that piercing clean and keep utilizing that product after that point in time. So draw parallels with your own business with this example as I'm going through. So you've got the onboarding process, and in this instance, Jason might say to the people, you've got to keep it clean. You've got to make sure that you clean it once or twice a day with salt water. Here's how you mix that salt water up. This is the perfect opportunity to put together an automated campaign that also sends really short videos of how people go about doing that. You can get really targeted and segmented with that by actually showing people for the individual piercings how they would go about doing that, making sure that they keep it clean, because that's going to be the biggest sticking factor. Like quite literally sometimes it's going to be the biggest sticking factor for keeping that consumer happy, to make sure that they don't get any infection and that their piercing heals nicely so that they're ready to come in for their next one. So you've got a really nice onboarding campaign, because at the point of somebody purchasing something, they will go into their second biggest research phase. So initially when someone decides that they want to do something, they'll do a ton of research. They'll look at social media posts of what other people have done. They'll go and Google how to do certain things. And they'll do a ton of research about how they can make their best consumer decision. They might talk to a friend who might make a word of mouth referral. They might go about this entire process effectively in a way that gives them the information that they need to have in order to make that decision. Once they've made the decision, that's their kind of first moment of truth, the zero moment of truth. Then they've got the first moment of truth when they actually buy the thing. And then they go into the second moment of truth, experiencing it. And here's the second research phase. At this point in time, they want to know how to get the best out of what they've got. So if someone has gone in for a piercing, using our example, someone has gone in for a piercing, they might then research how to make sure that they're cleaning it, how to make sure that it doesn't get infected. What does it look like if it does infect it? Is the pain normal? All those kinds of questions, they're going to be typing into Google. You don't want them to go away and another studio to be providing the information and they go, oh, these guys have got loads of information, maybe I should be using them instead. That is the last thing you want to do, and that's a great way to have people churning out of your process. We don't want that. So instead, what we want to happen is we want to provide all of that information as part of the experience, so that every now and then they're getting a great email and they're getting a little bit of follow-up all the time, and that's the onboarding campaign. That's what we want to have happen. We want people to go, wow, these guys are really on it. They've preempted all of my questions. They understand what I'm looking for. They get me. That's what we want people to have, because that is building the relationship and it's building trust. And at that point in time, if they've got any actual questions, they're going to turn to you instead of turning to your competitors. Okay, so here are the questions to ask yourself. How do you deliver the best experience properly? How do you satiate all the questions that person may have? And how do you go above and beyond and really kind of make them think, wow, these guys are pretty amazing. How do you do that with your onboarding campaign? Those are the things that I'd like you to have a think about. And we're actually going to build a little onboarding campaign together now for my uncle's business, Wildfire Tattoos and Body Piercing. So let's have a look at how that would look. Okay, so I've got just about every color that I have aside from the black out, but I want to show you how someone would go through the process of effectively becoming a customer and then how you kind of craft that onboarding process so you keep them. Okay, so let's say this is your duty dude over here in his pants. And he's the person who wants a tattoo or a piercing. And at this point in time, the first thing that they're going to think is, I want whatever it is. Okay? And that's the decision that they've made, that they want that. So that is your 0 moment of truth, right? Then they're going to go and they're going to gather information. Okay, so this is your opportunity, if you want to kind of be appearing in the organic search results or whatever it is, to kind of get all of that information out there so that they come to you first. So they might kind of do a little bit of research online. They might go and talk to a friend. Whatever they do, they're going to kind of find out what they need to know in order to make their decision. And then there is going to be the point of purchase, where they've decided, yeah, I want to do that. I want to make that happen. And that is the point of purchase. And that is where your second moment of truth starts. Okay. Oh, second moment of truth looks remarkably like Z emoji. Just make a little line over there so you can see that that's a Z. And then this point over here is the first moment of truth. And then you got the second moment of truth. So the second moment of truth starts the experience. Okay. So now they've purchased the thing. And of course, in the instance of the example that we're using here with my uncle's business, is going to be pain because it's going to be a piercing. But this is where all of the onboarding starts. Okay, so now you want to start some kind of onboarding campaign. And in this, you want to go, how do we deliver the best info? Right? How do we preempt any questions? You're going to preempt any questions that they've got, and you're also going to check in. You can see how they're doing, you know, what's going on in their life at that point in time. All right, I spelled onboarding wrong. All right, so you're going to provide the best information possible, and this is giving the wow experience. You're going to preempt any questions. So you're going to figure out what do they actually need to know at this point in time to utilize this product best or to get the best experience. And then you're going to check in and see how they're doing. And when you check in and see how they're doing, this is your opportunity at this point in time to upsell or cross-sell. Okay, so this is your opportunity to offer more. Okay, this is your opportunity to get a little bit of extra dollars, and this is what we call customer lifetime value. So getting that little bit of extra money and getting the repeat purchase. So at this point, you have built the relationship really, really well, and now you're keeping and retaining that customer and getting them to spend a little bit more money. Okay, but you've got to make sure that you only do that after you find out how they're doing. Because if they're doing well, you can upsell or cross-sell. If they're not doing well, then that's your opportunity to make it better. That's your opportunity to fix the situation, whatever it is. It's your opportunity to build even more trust and engagement with your audience. And then once you've done all of that, it's time to ask for a lovely testimonial or a referral, you know, tell your friends, sort of a deal. And at this point in time, you've got a really, really solid onboarding campaign, because hopefully when you do your upsell and your cross-sell, what you're doing is you're getting people to go back to that point and you're starting the whole process again. And then here, you're getting them to tell their friends. So now you might have this lady come along, and she might say, hey, I also want a piercing. And so now you're expanding this process and you're getting them to go in to the process again. And this is how you kind of get and you keep your consumers. You get them spending the money where appropriate. You also love them a lot by providing all the information that they need to know and show that you care, not just running back to the beginning again. You're covering all the different moments of truth, and you're expanding the business, not only by getting these additional sales here, but by getting those referrals and testimonials, which are going to make it easier for you to get more customers. All right, so that is our strategy for going about getting and keeping a consumer. But do you want to know the ninja thing that we do and append onto the end of this? Here's the ninja thing. When people go through this entire process and they're consuming a lot of information, let's say they don't take the cross-sell or the upsell. They don't do this. They don't do the thing that we want them to do. At that point in time, we're going to do something a little bit differently. And I just need to clear the boards. Give me 2 seconds. Okay, so your customers come in and they've bought something, but they haven't necessarily taken the cross-sell or the upsell. How do you keep them engaged at that point in time? And how do you make sure that you keep them as a customer? Well, here's a really, really cool strategy. So we call this the long-term nurture. And when you're looking at putting a long-term nurture together, what you're looking at doing is you're providing information that is of interest to your audience, okay? And mostly this is answering questions. So we'll just do Q&A. So you're answering the questions that they're asking, and you're providing valuable information that they enjoy. And so what you do is you send this series of information out pretty much indefinitely once a week. And so you're sending, it could be a blog post, it could be a video, it could be a podcast. So you want to send out a minimum of once a week, once every 2 weeks if you're getting people into the process. But I have some clients who do this extremely well and they send them out daily. But the idea is that you want to be sending really relevant information that people like. And when they're kind of going through this process, what people are going to start doing is they're going to see, oh, these guys aren't just trying to sell me something all the time, they're actually giving me value. Because the point of the long-term nurture is you never sell in here. What you do instead, and this is the really ninja part to this, what you do instead is you track their engagement. So let's say, sticking again with my uncle's business, you might send out some emails, and so the kind of combination is everything about the alternative lifestyle. So it's all about kind of piercings and tattoos and all that kind of jazz. And he's also got merchandise and that kind of stuff. So you might be sending out, one could be like a merchandise related thing, like, you know, how do you how do you look more alternative? How do you whatever the question is that they're asking, answer it. What are the best piercings? What are the best tattoos? And then you might send another piercing email. So you're sending a variety of topics that they would have interest in. And then what you do is you track what they're engaging in. So let's say in this example, they're not really interested in the merchandise email. So they open it, but they don't click through to the blog post or the video or whatever content you're putting out. But they are quite interested in the piercing email, and they definitely click through to the video to see about how that piercing is done and how it looks. They're not too hot on the tattoo stuff, but then the next week you send them another piercing email and they're like, hells yeah, that looks like an interesting piercing, and they click through. So at that point in time, you can see that they are interested in the piercing stuff and they're not so interested in the merchandise and the tattoo stuff. And this is where this gets really cool, because now you're sending out valuable information, you're building a continual relationship with those people that are already customers, and at the point in time where you've collected enough engagement, what you do is you have an engagement threshold. All right, and an engagement threshold is just something that tracks how much people are engaging with something, and when it goes past an allowable threshold, so let's say they've consumed 2 or 3 pieces of content, they go through that threshold and they get themselves into what we call a short-term nurture campaign, which is basically a sales campaign. Okay, and it's very, very targeted. This is pure behavioral selling at this point in time, because then you say to people, okay, you send a series of very targeted emails saying, hey, we noticed you clicked on that. Why don't you come in and we'll give you this piercing effectively. This is how much it costs. This is what it's going to be like. This is why it's awesome. And at that point in time, you have made yourself a customer, because they will more than likely take up that offer because we know that they're interested in that. And if they don't, then, you know, we just track their engagement and keep up with their engagement. But this is how to take people who maybe don't take that upsell, to keep them continually engaged throughout the process and then trickle them back into sales as per their behavioral engagement. So you never ever sell. There is never any sales in the long-term nurture. all the sales happen here in the short-term nurture campaigns. So it's always providing value, and then depending on how they engage with that value, you trigger them into the short-term nurture campaigns. And that, my friends, is how you put together a winning engagement strategy for keeping customers, getting more out of your existing customers, so a nice little boost to sales, and making sure that you keep that engagement there and keep that churn as low as possible so they don't go to your competition. And that is pretty awesome. Okay, so if you've got any questions on this process, pop me a message in the comments below. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't done so already, please make sure you subscribe. You can check out a couple of other videos which I have put in the description, which relate to what we've been talking about here, specifically one on the customer journey. So go and check that out. And if you'd like a hand with this process, pop us an email at ninja@automationninjas anytime. We love putting this stuff together. Okay, so until next time, go forth and be epic.